The bucket tips. Muddy water explodes across Amara's face. Her hair, her threadbare dress, her last shred of dignity. She kneels in Bamba's market square, scrubbing laundry in the dirt while her aunt towers above, ripping royal blue cloth from her cracked hands. Filthy orphan, you contaminate everything meant for nobles. 200 witnesses. No one moves. No one speaks. Have you ever been invisible, judged worthless because of where you came from? What unfolded in this village became one of the most powerful African stories you'll hear. Real-life stories like this cut deeper than fiction. A woman endured public shame, married a blind stranger to survive, and uncovered a truth that shattered everything. These touching stories remind us, life stories hide impossible reversals. But here's what Amara's cruel aunt didn't know. The blind beggar was no beggar at all. 15 years earlier, the flood came at midnight. Amara was 7 when the river swallowed her parents' farm, the maize fields, the goat pen, the small house her father built with his own hands. She remembers her mother's final words, whispered as the water climbed, "God sees you, child," even when no one else does. By morning, Amara was an orphan. Nana Ya arrived at the relief camp 3 days later. She wore black kente and dabbed her eyes with a white cloth, performing grief for the volunteers. "My poor sister's only child," she announced. "Of course I'll take her." The camp director smiled. Paperwork was signed. Amara was handed over like a donation receipt. She learned the truth within a week. Nana Ya didn't want a niece. She wanted free labor. The storage shed became Amara's bedroom, a space barely wide enough to lie down, smelling of mildew and rat droppings. She woke at dawn to haul water, scrub floors, wash laundry by hand until her knuckles bled. Breakfast was whatever Nana Ya's children left behind. Dinner was the same. At school, the other girls whispered, "Amara the maid. Bride of dust." They mimicked the way she smelled like lye soap, the patches on her uniform. By age 12, Nana Ya pulled her out entirely. "Education is wasted on orphans," she said. "You'll marry whoever takes you," but no one took her. In Bamba, old customs clung like moss to stone. The village elders taught that orphans without a male guardian carried spiritual contamination, a curse that soured milk and withered crops. No decent family would risk it. Amara was 22, unwed and marked. Then Chief Osei made his announcement. It happened on a Sunday after church. The entire village gathered under the baobab tree in the central square. Chief Osei stood on a wooden platform, his ceremonial staff glinting in the sun. He was a thick-bodied man with a gold tooth and eyes that calculated profit in every interaction. "My people," he began, voice booming. "Bamba grows. We must modernize. I propose a new civic contribution." The crowd leaned in. "Any unmarried woman over the age of 22 will pay a spinster tax of 50,000 cedis. The funds will build our new community feast hall." He paused, letting the number settle. "Payment is due within 30 days. Those who cannot pay must leave the village." Gasps rippled through the assembly. 50,000 cedis, 6 months' wages for a laborer. Amara's chest tightened. She owned nothing. She earned nothing. Nana Ya kept every coin from the sewing Amara did for neighbors, claiming it as rent. Beside her, Nana Ya's face remained stone. After the assembly dispersed, she pulled Amara aside near the church gate. "I won't pay your shame," she hissed. "You'll marry whoever offers." "Beggar, cripple, madman, I don't care." "Or you leave tonight." Amara's voice barely rose above a whisper. "Where would I go?" Nana Ya smiled, a cold, efficient expression. "Not my concern." That evening, Amara visited her mother's grave on the hill overlooking the village. The marker was simple, a wooden cross, her mother's name carved by hand. She knelt in the red dirt and wept. "Mama, you said God sees me, but I've been invisible my whole life." 3 weeks passed. The deadline loomed. Nana Ya attended every church service, donated generously to the pastor's building fund, wore her brightest kente. In public, she was the charitable guardian who'd rescued a flood orphan. In private, she counted the days until Amara's removal freed up the storage shed for grain storage. She owned a royal blue cloth, the color reserved for weddings and coronations. It hung in her bedroom like a trophy. Once, Amara had touched it while cleaning. Nana Ya slapped her so hard her ear rang for 2 days. "Your orphan hands curse everything. Don't you ever touch what belongs to the blessed." On the 21st day, Chief Osei visited Nana Ya's compound. Amara served them tea on the veranda, then retreated to the kitchen. She listened through the window. "I have a solution for your problem," the chief said. Nana Ya's voice brightened. "Go on." "There's a blind man. Showed up in the village 6 months ago. Calls himself Kwame. Survives on alms, sleeps behind the old church, quiet, harmless. And marry her to him. I'll waive the tax as a community mercy act. Good for my reputation. Solves your issue." Silence. Then Nana Ya laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "A blind beggar, perfect. She'll take him or she walks." That night, Nana Ya dragged Amara into the courtyard by her wrist. The blind man stood near the gate, leaning on a carved wooden walking stick. His face was angular, his posture still despite the torn shirt and dusty trousers. He turned his head toward the sound of their approach, but his eyes, clouded and unfocused, didn't track. "This is Kwame," Nana Ya announced. "Your husband. The wedding is in 3 days. Be grateful I found you anyone." Amara stared. The man said nothing. She looked at his hands. They were clean, uncalloused. Not the hands of a laborer or a beggar, but she was out of options. She nodded. "Chief, Ose arranged the ceremony himself, a mockery of tradition held in a dirt courtyard with no guests, no music, no feast." The village elder mumbled vows. Kwame stood in silence. Amara wore the same faded dress she'd been scrubbing laundry in that morning. When the elder pronounced them married, Nana Ya leaned close to Amara's ear. "You're my shame now. Don't come crawling back." Kwame turned toward Amara. His voice was low, calm, and startlingly clear. "I will not harm you. You are safe with me." It was the first kind sentence Amara had heard in 15 years. The hut sat at the edge of the village, half collapsed and abandoned for years. Amara and Kwame moved in the day after the wedding. No one offered help. No one brought gifts. The roof leaked. The walls were cracked clay. There was no bed, no stove, no lamp. Amara swept out the rat droppings and spider webs, while Kwame sat by the doorway, his walking stick resting against his shoulder. "Tell me what you see," he said. She paused. "It's small, broken, but it's ours. Then we'll make it whole." That first week, Amara scavenged firewood from the forest. Kwame sat outside, listening to the village sounds. Children laughing, vendors shouting, the rhythmic pounding of cassava being ground into fufu. He didn't ask for pity. He didn't complain. At night, they slept on opposite sides of the hut. He never touched her, never demanded anything, but the village wasn't done with them. On the 8th day, a group of women arrived, Nana Ya's church friends. They carried baskets covered with cloth smiling too wide. "We've come to bless the newlyweds," one announced. They set the baskets down and pulled back the coverings. Spoiled yams, rotten fish, cassava crawling with maggots. "For the blind beggar and his cursed bride," another woman said, laughing. They left before Amara could respond. She stood in the doorway, fists clenched, tears burning behind her eyes. Kwame's voice came from inside. "Don't let them see you break." She turned. He was standing now, facing her direction with eerie precision. "How did you—" "I hear everything," he said quietly. "Your breath, your heartbeat. I know when you're about to cry." She wiped her face. "Why don't you fight back?" "Because I'm choosing my battles. And so should you." The second week brought worse. Chief Osei invented a new tax, the blind beggar residency fee. 5,000 cedis monthly, payable to the village treasury. He delivered the notice himself, smirking as he hammered it to their door. "Can't have freeloaders," he said. "Pay by the end of the month or vacate." Kwame stood in the doorway. "We're citizens. This tax is illegal." Chief Osei's smirk widened. "You planning to sue me, blind man?" "With what lawyer? What money?" That night the chief's men returned. They smashed the 2 clay pots Amara had salvaged, kicked over her firewood pile, and left. Amara sat in the dirt, staring at the broken pieces. Kwame knelt beside her, his hand finding hers with startling accuracy. "They want you to give up," he said. "Don't. Why do you care?" Her voice cracked. "You didn't choose this." "You didn't choose me." He was silent for a long moment. "I chose to stay," he finally said. "I could have left Bamba months ago. But I stayed because I wanted to see something. You're blind, not the way you think." She didn't understand, but she didn't let go of his hand. The third week, Nana Ya escalated the rumors. She told the market women that Amara had cursed Kwame, that his blindness was punishment for marrying an orphan. She claimed he would die within the moon cycle, and the curse would spread. Mothers pulled their children away when Amara passed. Vendors refused to sell to her. The pastor mentioned spiritual contamination in his Sunday sermon, glancing pointedly at the back row where Amara sat alone. She stopped going to church. Instead, she walked 3 miles to the next village where no one knew her story. She sold the only thing she had, her sewing skill. She mended clothes, embroidered wedding kerchiefs, stitched school uniforms. The women paid her in coins and cassava flour. She returned each evening with enough food for 2. Kwame noticed immediately. "Where did you get this?" he asked, touching the fresh bread. "I worked in the next village." "How did you? Your footsteps are different. Tired. You walked far." She sat down across from him. "You notice everything." "I have to." One evening, she brought home a scrap of old newspaper. She read it aloud by the fire. News from the capital. A story about a fisherman who caught a 200-pound catfish, an advertisement for soap. Kwame listened intently. When she finished, he asked questions. Thoughtful questions. About politics, economics, legal structures. She lowered the paper. "You're educated," he didn't deny it. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Someone trying to see if kindness still exists. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give. For now," she wanted to press. But something in his voice, something fragile and fierce, stopped her. On the 23rd day, a visitor arrived. Dr. Ajay was a traveling physician, lean and grey-haired, with a leather bag slung over his shoulder. He knocked on their door just after dawn. "I heard there's a blind man here who needs an examination," he said. Amara frowned. "We didn't send for you." Nevertheless, he examined Kwame's eyes with a small light, asked questions about his symptoms, his history. Then he leaned close and whispered something in a language Amara didn't recognize. Fluid, tonal, formal. Kwame answered in the same language. Dr. Ajay straightened, his expression grave. He turned to Amara. "Your husband is not what this village thinks. I know he's educated. He's more than that." The doctor reached into his bag and pulled out a sealed envelope. "Open this only if Chief Osei threatens your lives. Not before. Why?" "What's in it?" Dr. Ajay glanced at Kwame, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "The truth," the doctor said. "But truth is dangerous. Guard it carefully." He left before she could ask more. Amara held the envelope, her hands shaking. She looked at Kwame. "What's in this?" "Protection," he said. "And a choice you'll have to make." That night, she hid the envelope beneath a loose floorboard. The 4th week brought a fragile shift. Kwame began sitting under the baobab tree in the village square, teaching children mathematics and storytelling. At first, parents watched suspiciously. But the children loved him. They shouted answers, laughed at his riddles, brought him water. One boy asked, "How do you know so much if you can't see books?" Kwame smiled. "I listened. I remembered. Sight is only one way to learn." Slowly, reluctantly, a few parents softened. A mother brought Kwame roasted groundnuts as thanks. A father asked him to tutor his daughter in arithmetic. Amara watched from a distance, mending clothes under a tree. She saw the way Kwame held himself, calm, dignified, unbroken. She saw the way the children looked at him, not with pity, with respect, and she realized something. This man, blind, poor, nameless, carried himself like someone who'd once commanded rooms. That evening, she cooked rice and chicken stew, the best meal she'd managed in a month. They ate in silence. Finally, she spoke. "I don't know who you are, but I know you're not a beggar." Kwame set down his bowl. His clouded eyes turned toward her. "Does it matter?" "Yes. Why?" "Because I'm your wife, and I don't want to be lied to anymore." He was quiet for a long time. The fire crackled between them. "I'm someone who was poisoned," he said at last. "Blinded by people who wanted me erased. I came here to see if the world had any kindness left, or if power and cruelty had won. And you answered that question the first night. When you didn't turn me away." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "What happens when they find out?" she whispered. "They will. Soon." "Then what?" He reached across the space between them. Found her hand. "Then we face it together." Amara's sewing business grew quietly, then loudly. Women from 3 neighboring villages commissioned her work. Wedding kente with intricate gold threading, christening gowns embroidered with lilies, school uniforms stitched so precisely the seams were invisible. Word spread. A trader from the regional market offered to sell her pieces in the capital. She earned enough to buy a goat, repair the hut's leaking roof, purchase a proper oil lamp, and a second cooking pot. Small victories, but in a life that had only known deprivation, they felt like miracles. The transformation didn't escape notice. Nana Yar watched from her veranda, lips pressed into a bloodless line. The orphan she'd discarded, the girl she'd humiliated in the market square, was thriving. Worse, she was respected. Customers praised her skill. Mothers asked her to teach their daughters the running stitch, the crosshatch, the hidden hem. It was unbearable. Chief Osei, meanwhile, had a different problem. Kwame's teaching sessions under the baobab tree had become a daily institution. 23 children attended regularly now, some walking an hour from distant farms. They learned arithmetic using stones and sticks, history through storytelling, logic through riddles. Parents reported their children were solving problems faster, speaking more clearly, asking smarter questions. But the chief didn't see education. He saw influence. Influence was currency in Bamba. Influence determined who controlled the village council, who allocated land, who collected taxes. And Kwame, a blind beggar with no name, no wealth, no official authority, was accumulating it faster than the chief could suppress. On the 42nd day of the marriage, Chief Osei convened an emergency assembly. The entire village gathered under the baobab at noon. The chief stood on his wooden platform, his ceremonial staff planted in the dirt like a spear. His gold tooth flashed in the sun. "My people," he began, voice tight with manufactured concern, "I've received troubling reports. The blind man who lives among us practices witchcraft." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mothers pulled their children behind them. Amara, standing at the edge of the assembly, felt her stomach drop. Chief Osei continued, pacing the platform. "He claims to teach mathematics, but how does a blind man possess such knowledge?" He whispers in foreign tongues with strangers. "He carries a carved staff, an object that radiates dark power. Several villagers have reported nightmares. Livestock dying, crops withering, all lies." Amara knew it. But the crowd was listening, fear spreading like smoke. The chief gestured sharply. His guards moved through the assembly and dragged Kwame forward, forcing him to kneel in the center of the square. Amara lunged from the crowd. A guard's arm blocked her chest. "Stay back, woman. This is a matter of village law," she struggled. "He's done nothing wrong." Chief Osei circled Kwame slowly, a predator savoring the moment before the kill. "Surrender the staff," he commanded. "We'll examine it for evidence of sorcery." Kwame's voice was steady, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "It's a walking stick. Nothing more. Then you won't mind if I take it." "I mind." The chief's smile sharpened. He nodded to his guards. They ripped the staff from Kwame's hands with enough force that he nearly toppled forward. As they seized it, the bottom cap, a carved wooden plug fitted snugly into the base, popped loose and fell into the dirt. Something gold glinted in the sun. Chief Osei froze. He bent down slowly. Picked it up, a royal seal, small, circular, no larger than a coin, but unmistakable. The Ashanti Kingdom's crest, an eagle clutching a sword, carved in solid gold with microscopic detail. The crowd leaned in, murmuring. A few elders recognized it immediately. The chief's mind raced. He knew this seal. Every citizen over 30 did. It marked items belonging to the royal family, specifically to high-ranking members of the direct bloodline. His first instinct was to shout, "Thief! Fraud!" demand answers in front of everyone. But then a sharper, darker thought cut through the noise. Reward. 18 months ago, Crown Prince Kwame Osei had vanished from the capital. The story had dominated regional news for weeks. The prince, eldest son of King Osei Tutu III, had been targeted in a coup orchestrated by his uncle, a rival faction within the royal court. Poison had been used. Rumor claimed the prince had been blinded, left for dead in the forest. The royal family declared him missing, presumed dead. But they offered a public reward for verified information leading to his recovery. 100,000 cedis. Chief Osei's pulse quickened. His palms went slick around the golden seal. This blind beggar. The educated speech. The dignity. The formal mannerisms. The name Kwame it couldn't be, but what if it was? 100,000 cedis. He pocketed the seal quickly before anyone in the crowd could see it clearly. "A stolen trinket," he announced loudly, turning to face the assembly. proof of his crimes. "This man is a thief and a fraud. He has deceived us all." Shouts erupted, some in agreement, others in confused protest. Chief Osei raised his staff for silence. "By my authority as village chief, I declare Kwame and his wife banished from Bamba. They will leave at dawn tomorrow. If they resist, they will be imprisoned for defying lawful judgment." Amara screamed, "He's done nothing." "You're lying." Chief Osei ignored her. He gestured to his guards. "Take them to the holding pen. Ensure they don't flee during the night." The guards seized Kwame and Amara, dragging them toward a small storage shed behind the chief's compound, a windowless clay structure used to detain drunks, thieves, and anyone who challenged the chief's authority. They were shoved inside. The heavy wooden door slammed shut. A metal lock clicked into place. Darkness swallowed them whole. Amara's breath came in ragged, panicked gasps. Her shoulders hit the wall. She slid down, trembling. "This is insane. He's going to kill us, or worse." Kwame sat calmly against the opposite wall, his hands resting on his knees. "He won't kill us," he said quietly. "How do you know?" "Because he recognized the seal. Right now he's trying to figure out if I'm worth more alive or dead." "Worth more? What are you talking about?" Kwame exhaled slowly. "It's time, Amara. We need the envelope Dr. Ajay left. It's hidden in the hut, under the floorboard." "We can't—" "I know where it is. But you remember what Dr. Ajay said. Open it only if Chief Osei threatens our lives." "He just did." "Exactly." Amara pounded on the door with both fists. A guard shouted from outside, "Quiet, or I'll come in there!" She slumped back down, shaking. "I can't get to the envelope. We're locked in." Kwame's voice softened. "Then I'll tell you what's in it." She turned toward the sound of his voice in the pitch black. "It's a royal decree," he said. "Signed by my father, King Osei Tutu III, 17 months ago. It states that I, Crown Prince Kwame Osei, firstborn heir to the Ashanti throne, was poisoned by conspirators loyal to my uncle. They used a refined toxin, extracted from the seeds of the yellow oleander plant. It destroyed my optic nerves permanently. The goal was assassination, but I survived." Amara's mind went blank. "Then flooded. You're—" Her voice cracked. "You're the prince." "The missing prince, yes. Then why are you here? In this forgotten village? Living in a broken hut? Married to me?" "Because I needed to know something." "Know what?" His voice carried a weight that made the darkness feel heavier. "If anyone would see me, truly see me, not my crown, not my wealth, not my title or my bloodline, just me. A blind man, broken, powerless, with nothing." Silence pressed down. Amara's voice was barely a whisper. "Are you tested me?" "No." His hand moved through the darkness, finding hers with startling accuracy. "I tested the world. You were the answer I prayed for." Tears burned down her cheeks. "You lied to me." "I withheld my name. Everything else was true. I am blind. I was poisoned. And I married you because in that moment I had nothing left but hope." "Hope for what?" "That someone like you existed. Someone who would see a broken man and choose kindness. Not duty, not pity, kindness." She pulled her hand away. "I'm not noble. I married you because I had no choice. The tax, the deadline. I would have been thrown out. But you stayed. You worked 3 miles away to feed us. You defended me against rumors. You didn't have to do any of that. You should have told me the truth. Would you have believed me?" She opened her mouth. Closed it, because he was right. She wouldn't have. Footsteps approached outside the shed. Voices. Low, urgent. Amara pressed her ear to the rough wooden door. Chief Osei was speaking to someone else. An older man's voice, raspy and calculating. "Are you certain it's authentic?" The chief hissed. "I am. I worked in the Royal Mint for 12 years before I retired. That's a genuine Mpwanam seal. Only 3 exist in the kingdom. One for the king, one for the crown prince, one for the queen mother. No forgeries have ever been successfully made. The craftsmanship is impossible to replicate." Chief Osei's voice dropped lower, barely audible. "Then we don't turn him in for the reward." "Why not?" 100,000. We sell him." A pause. "Sell him? To whom?" "To his enemies. The northern faction, the ones who poisoned him. They failed once. They'll pay double, maybe triple, to finish the job quietly. No trial. No public spectacle, just disappearance." The older voice hesitated. "That's treason, Osei. If the king finds out, the king thinks his son is dead. And after tonight, he'll be right." Footsteps receded. Amara's blood turned to ice. She looked toward where Kwame sat, though she couldn't see him. "They're going to kill you, I know, then we escape now." "How?" "The door's locked. The walls are solid clay, 2 feet thick." Amara stood, running her hands along the walls. Her fingers found a seam, a hairline crack where the clay had pulled away from the wooden support beam in the corner. She dug her nails into it. Clay crumbled just slightly. "Help me," she whispered. For the next hour they clawed at the wall in silence. Amara's fingernails split. Blood slicked her palms. Kwame worked by touch, prying loose chunks of dried clay, widening the gap inch by inch. Finally, moonlight sliced through. A hole. Barely wide enough for a body to squeeze through. Amara went first, scraping her shoulders raw. She reached back through and guided Kwame's hands, pulling him after her. They stumbled into the night and ran back to the hut. Amara tore up the floorboard, grabbed the envelope, ripped it open. The decree was exactly as Kwame described. Official parchment. The king's seal embossed in red wax, formal legal language declaring Prince Kwame Ose's survival. The execution of the traitors and his rightful claim to the throne. At the bottom, a handwritten note in elegant script. "If you are reading this, my son, you have been found. Trust Dr. Ajay. He will summon the royal guard. The kingdom awaits your return. Come home." Amara's hands shook so hard the parchment rattled. "What do we do?" Kwame stood in the doorway, head tilted, listening to the village sounds, distant voices, dogs barking, the rhythmic thud of drums. "We go public. Tomorrow morning, at the assembly square. We expose Chief Osei in front of everyone. He'll kill us before we can speak. Not if we're faster. Not if we have witnesses who matter." "Who?" "The elders. The mothers whose children I taught. Dr. Ajay, if we can reach him." Amara looked at the decree in her hands, then at Kwame, this man who'd hidden a kingdom to find one honest heart. "Do you trust me?" he asked. She thought of the 15 years she'd spent invisible, the humiliation, the hunger, the loneliness. And then she thought of the 42 days since this blind stranger became her husband. The quiet, the kindness, the way he listened like her words mattered. "Yes," she said, "I trust you." "Then tomorrow we end this." Outside, drums began to beat louder. The call to assembly, Chief Osei, was accelerating the timeline. Dawn was still 3 hours away, but the reckoning would come sooner. Dawn broke pale and cold. Chief Osei's drums had beaten through the night, summoning the village to an emergency assembly. By the time the sun cleared the hills, 300 people stood packed beneath the baobab tree, more than Amara had ever seen gathered at once. Fear was a powerful Zhaohuan. The chief stood on his platform, flanked by 6 guards. He wore his finest kente, deep red and gold, and his ceremonial staff gleamed. He looked like justice. He looked like authority. He looked nothing like the man who'd planned murder in the dark. Amara and Kwame approached from the edge of the square. Whispers erupted as people noticed them. They escaped. "How did the blind man—" "The chief said they were dangerous." A guard stepped forward, hand on his machete. "You were ordered to stay in the holding pen." Kwame's voice rang clear. "We're here to answer the charges publicly, as is our right under village law." Chief Osei's jaw tightened. But he couldn't refuse. Not in front of the entire village. Not without revealing his true intentions. "Very well," he said coldly. "Approach." Amara and Kwame walked into the center of the square. The crowd formed a tight circle around them. A human arena. Chief Osei began without preamble. "Kwame, you stand accused of theft, fraud, and practicing witchcraft. You carry stolen property. You deceive this village with false teaching. You endanger our children." He paused, letting the accusations settle. "What do you say?" Kwame stood still, his clouded eyes facing the chief's platform. "I say you're a liar," gasps. Murmurs. Shock rippled outward. Chief Osei's face darkened. You claim I stole property." "What property?" "The golden seal found in your staff. Show it to the assembly. Let them see what you're accusing me of." The chief hesitated, just for a second. But Amara saw it, the flicker of uncertainty. Slowly, Chief Osei pulled the golden seal from his robe pocket. He held it up, but at a distance, angled so most of the crowd couldn't see the detail. This seal was hidden in his staff, clearly stolen from a nobleman. Kwame's voice cut through. "From which nobleman?" "Name him." "I don't need to. You accused me of theft. Under the Village Dispute Resolution Act of 1997, you must identify the victim of the alleged crime. "Or withdraw the charge," the crowd murmured. Several elders nodded. They knew the law. Chief Osei's face reddened. "The victim is unknown, but the seal is clearly short. May I see it?" An elderly voice spoke from the crowd. Elder Kofi stepped forward. 80 years old, former village chief, respected by everyone. He'd retired a decade ago, but still attended assemblies. Chief Osei couldn't refuse him. Elder Kofi took the seal, examined it closely. His eyes widened. He looked at Kwame, then back at the seal, then at Kwame again. "This is the Royal Mepwanam seal," he said quietly. "It belongs to the Crown Prince of the Ashanti Kingdom." Silence dropped like a stone. Elder Kofi continued, voice shaking. "I served in the royal court for 15 years in my youth. I've seen this seal twice in my life. There are only 3 in existence. This one," he pointed to a tiny mark on the eagle's wing, "has a distinctive engraving. The prince's personal seal." The crowd erupted. Shouts, questions, disbelief. Chief Osei's voice rose desperately. "Then he stole it. He's a fraud pretending, 'I am Crown Prince Kwame Osei.'" Kwame's voice silenced the square. "Son of King Osei Tutu III. 18 months ago, I was poisoned by conspirators within my own court. The toxin blinded me. I survived, but I was presumed dead." He turned his face toward the crowd, letting them see his clouded eyes. "I came to Bamba to learn something, to see if any corner of this kingdom still held honor, kindness, compassion. If any person would see a blind beggar as human." He gestured toward Amara. "This woman, treated as garbage by her own family, humiliated in your market, forced into marriage to satisfy an illegal tax, showed me more dignity in 42 days than most of my court showed in a lifetime." Amara's throat tightened. Tears blurred her vision. Kwame continued. "Chief Osei, you didn't just steal my seal. Last night I heard you conspire to sell me to the northern faction, the same people who poisoned me. You plan to have me murdered for profit." The chief's face went white. "Lies, I never—" "Elder Kofi," Kwame said, "you know the law. What is the penalty for conspiring to assassinate a member of the royal family?" Elder Kofi's voice was grave. "Death or life imprisonment at the king's discretion." A woman's voice shrieked from the crowd. "He's lying. The prince is dead." "This is witchcraft." Nana Ya pushed through the assembly, her face twisted with rage and fear. "My niece has been deceived. This blind man is a con artist. He's using her to—" Amara stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but clear. "Aunt, you sold me to this man for 50,000 cedis. You called him cursed. You told me not to come crawling back." She paused. "But the moment you realize he might be royalty, you want to claim me again." Nanaya's mouth opened. Closed, Amara continued. "You enslaved me for 15 years, took my inheritance, stole my mother's land certificates. Yes, I know about those. Dr. Ajay found the records." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "You let me believe I was nothing, worthless, contaminated." Amara's voice broke, but she didn't stop. "But I am the wife of a prince, and you will never control me again." At that moment a sound cut through the square, sharp, rhythmic, military. Drums, royal drums. The crowd turned. From the forest road a procession emerged. 50 soldiers in red and gold uniforms, royal guards carrying spears and ceremonial shields. At the front rode Dr. Ajay on horseback, wearing the formal robes of the king's physician. Behind him, a palanquin draped in royal blue silk. The assembly parted like water. The palanquin stopped in the center of the square. 4 guards opened the curtains. A woman stepped out, tall, regal, wearing a crown of gold and amber. The Queen Mother. She walked directly to Kwame, my son. Kwame's face crumpled. "Mother." She embraced him, weeping openly. The entire village knelt. Amara knelt too, trembling. The Queen Mother released Kwame and turned to face Chief Osei, who was frozen on his platform. "You are accused of conspiracy to commit regicide," she said, voice like iron. "Theft of royal property, extortion, and the unlawful detention of the Crown Prince." Chief Osei dropped to his knees. "Your Majesty, I didn't know. I swear you knew." The Queen Mother's gaze could cut stone. "My son heard you planning his murder." "There are witnesses," she gestured. 2 of the guards seized Chief Osei, stripped him of his staff and kente, bound his hands. The Queen Mother turned to Nana Ya. "You are accused of theft of inheritance, enslavement of a family member, and conspiracy to defraud the crown. You will be tried in the royal court." Nana Ya collapsed. Sobbing, the Queen Mother finally looked at Amara. Still kneeling, stand, child, Amara stood. Shaking, the Queen Mother circled her slowly. Assessing, my son married you. Yes, Your Majesty. Under false pretenses, Amara's breath caught. I didn't know. I'm not accusing you. I'm stating fact. The Queen Mother's expression softened slightly. He tested the world, and you passed. That is no small thing. She reached into her robe and pulled out a length of royal blue cloth, the same color Nana Ya had forbidden Amara to touch. The Queen Mother draped it across Amara's shoulders. In our kingdom, blue is the color of the royal consort. You are the crown prince's wife. That makes you crown princess. And when my husband passes, you will be queen. Amara's knees buckled. Kwame caught her. The Queen Mother addressed the assembly. Let it be known. Prince Kwame Osei lives. His bride is recognized, and any who harmed them will answer to the throne. She raised her hand. The royal guard drove their spears into the ground in unison, a thunderous declaration. The crowd erupted in cheers. Amara looked at Kwame, tears streaming. He smiled, the first real smile she'd ever seen from him. Told you we'd face it together, he whispered. The royal guard escorted Chief Osei and Nana Ya to a secure transport. They would be tried in the capital under royal law. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the two people who'd lorded over Bamba for years were led away in chains. Elder Kofi approached the Queen Mother and knelt. Your Majesty, forgive us. We didn't recognize the prince. We allowed injustice. The Queen Mother's voice was firm but not cruel. You are not on trial, Elder. But this village permitted cruelty to flourish. That must change, she turned to Kwame. What would you have me do? Kwame stepped forward, Amara at his side. Chief Osei imposed illegal taxes. The spinster tax, the blind beggar residency fee. Both were invented to extort the vulnerable. I want them abolished immediately. And I want restitution, the Queen Mother nodded. Granted. What else? Nana Ya stole my wife's inheritance. Her parents owned 12 acres of farmland along the river. The deeds were transferred illegally after their deaths. I want the land returned to Amara, with interest. Amara's breath caught. 12 acres. Her mother's land. She thought it was lost forever. The Queen Mother gestured to Dr. Ajay, who stepped forward with a leather document case. He pulled out land certificates, yellowed with age but official. Already prepared, Your Majesty. The land is legally restored to Princess Amara, effective immediately. Amara took the documents with trembling hands. She looked at Kwame. You knew? Dr. Ajay investigated the moment I suspected foul play. Your aunt forged signatures. The district clerk was bribed. It's all documented. Tears spilled down Amara's cheeks. Kwame continued addressing the assembly. I also want a royal fund established, the Orphan and Disability Support Fund. Any child who loses their parents, any citizen who acquires a disability, will receive financial assistance, education, and legal protection. No one will be called cursed or contaminated ever again. The crowd murmured approval. Several mothers wiped their eyes. The Queen Mother smiled slightly. My son has learned compassion in his exile. Very well. I will sign the decree tonight. She turned to the villagers. Bamba will also receive a new community center, built with royal funds, not extorted taxes. It will house a school, a medical clinic, and a legal aid office. You will have resources, but you must also have accountability. Elder Kofi bowed. We will, Your Majesty. The Queen Mother's gaze swept the assembly. One more matter. The people who mocked, rejected, and humiliated the crown princess when she was powerless, what should be done with them? Fear flickered across dozens of faces. Amara stepped forward. Her voice was steady. Forgiveness, the crowd exhaled. But not without consequence, Amara continued. I forgive the cruelty, but I will not pretend it didn't happen. Those who spread rumors, who spoiled our food, who turned their children away from my husband's teaching. I want public apologies, written and spoken, and I want each person to contribute 1 month's labor to the Orphan Fund. Not as punishment. As repair, the Queen Mother studied her. You have wisdom beyond your years, child. Amara looked at Nana Ya's empty house on the hill. I was raised by bitterness. I won't build my life on it. The Queen Mother nodded. So be it. She raised her voice. Any villager who harmed Prince Kwame or Princess Amara will publicly apologize and contribute to the Orphan Fund. Refusal will result in a formal royal investigation. This is mercy. Do not mistake it for weakness. One by one, villagers stepped forward. A woman who'd brought spoiled food. A man who'd laughed when Amara was drenched in muddy water. The pastor who'd called her contaminated in his sermon. Each one knelt before Amara and Kwame. Each one spoke their regret. Some were sincere. Some were not. But Amara accepted every apology. When the last person finished, Kwame spoke quietly to the assembly. I was blind before I was poisoned. Blind to the suffering of those beneath my station. Blind to how power corrupts. Blind to what truly matters. He reached for Amara's hand. My wife taught me to see. She saw me when I had nothing. That's why she's my queen. Not because of bloodline. Because of character. The crowd erupted in applause. The Queen Mother placed her hand on Kwame's shoulder. You will return to the capital. Your father is weak. He needs you. The kingdom needs you, Kwame nodded. I'll return. But not yet, the Queen Mother frowned. Why? Because I made a promise. I told the children of Bamba I would teach them mathematics every day until they mastered division. I keep my promises. A slow smile crossed the Queen Mother's face. 2 more weeks. Then you come home. Agreed. She turned to Amara. And you, Princess. Are you ready to leave this village? Amara looked around. At the hut where she'd learned to hope. At the market where she'd been humiliated. At the graves on the hill where her parents rested. I'm ready. But I'm taking my mother's memory with me. As you should. The Queen Mother climbed back into the palanquin. The royal guard formed ranks. Before the curtain closed, she looked back at Kwame. Your father will be proud, my son. You left a prince. You return a king. 1 year later, the palace orphanage stood on the eastern grounds of the royal compound, a sprawling stone building with arched windows and a courtyard filled with mango trees. 147 children lived there, orphans from every corner of the kingdom. Amara walked through the courtyard each morning, greeting them by name. She knew their stories, the flood survivors, the ones who'd lost parents to illness, the abandoned, the forgotten. She knew because she'd been them today. She wore royal blue, not as a symbol of status, but as a promise. The color that had once been forbidden to her now clothed an entire generation. Every child in the orphanage wore blue uniforms, stitched by Amara's own sewing cooperative. She paused near the classroom window. Inside, Kwame sat with 12 children, teaching geometry using wooden blocks and string. His blindness hadn't hindered him. If anything, it sharpened his teaching. The children learned to explain concepts aloud, to describe shapes and patterns verbally, to think in dimensions beyond sight. He sensed her presence. Amara? Just watching, he smiled. We're almost finished. Then I'm yours. She walked to the palace's western wing, her private workshop. 23 women worked there, formerly impoverished widows and single mothers. They sewed garments for the royal household, earned fair wages and trained apprentices. Nana Ya's confiscated wealth had funded it. Amara rarely thought of her aunt anymore. The trial had been swift. Nana Ya was sentenced to 10 years of supervised labor in the royal laundry, the same work she'd forced Amara to do for 15 years. Poetic but not cruel. She was fed, housed, allowed family visits. She'd written Amara 3 letters in the past year. Amara hadn't opened any. Forgiveness didn't require relationship. It only required release. Chief Osei, however, had faced harsher judgment. His conspiracy to commit regicide earned him life imprisonment. He worked on a road crew, paving the same village paths he'd once strutted across as chief. Bamba had elected Elder Kofi's granddaughter as the new chief. The village was healing. That evening, Amara and Kwame stood on the palace balcony overlooking the capital. The sun set in brilliant orange and red, painting the skyline in fire. Kwame's father, the king, had passed peacefully in his sleep 2 months ago. The coronation was scheduled for next month. Kwame would be king. Amara would be queen. The thought still felt impossible. Are you afraid? Kwame asked. Terrified. Good. Fear keeps us humble. She leaned into him. Do you ever regret it? Coming to Bamba? The suffering? Never. His hand found hers. I needed to be broken before I could build something real. You showed me what real looks like. Far below, the orphanage children played in the courtyard. Their laughter floated upward like music. Amara thought of her 7-year-old self, kneeling in flood mud, watching her parents' farm disappear. She thought of the storage shed, the hunger, the humiliation. She thought of muddy water hitting her face in the market square, and then she thought of this, a kingdom reformed, children fed, women employed, justice served. Her mother's voice echoed from memory. God sees you, child, even when no one else does, Amara whispered into the sunset. You were right, Mama. Kwame squeezed her hand. Come, he said. The children want to present you with something before bed. They descended the stairs together, a blind king and an orphan queen walking, into a future neither had imagined, but both had these African stories, real-life stories of injustice, resilience, and impossible reversals. Reminders that the world often crowns the ones it tried to bury. Touching stories like Amara's aren't fiction. They're proof that life stories hide power in the most unexpected places. What would you do if you discovered the person everyone rejected was royalty? Have you ever been judged for circumstances you couldn't control? Share your story in the comments, and if this moved you, subscribe. Because next week we journey to a marketplace where a widow's single coin bought a kingdom she never sought.